Welcome, everybody, back here at Veil of Sound. Our last interview in July, probably. I'm not very sure. There might be something on Tuesday, there might not. But the last Sunday interview, and I'm very, very happy to have, for me, an upcoming and very, very promising band here on the show. I have their guitarist slash singer, if I remember correctly. I have Davey from Dry Wedding here. So, Davey, thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And yes, I sing and play guitar.
Yeah. It's interesting that your voice when you speak is completely different from when you sing.
Oh, you think so?
Yes. But
Yeah.
we'll come to the point why. So we've already talked about it. The pluck of the day. We both pluck bands slash projects that we like. And you said that's one of the first times that somebody tells me or asks me about like, could I pluck two bands? Yes, of course you can. If you pluck two bands, I also pluck two bands. But the guest goes first, so you go first.
Okay, yeah, that seems fair. The first one, and I had to look this up because I didn't want to butcher the pronunciation. There's a band called Fear Nask, German band.
Oh
They
yeah,
just they just put out a new album a couple weeks ago, and our mutual friend Ralph Schmidt sent it to me, and I was just instantly hooked. I mean, very memorable riffs, incredible atmosphere. Just I think it's going to be one of the standout black metal records this year. And then the other one that I've been excited about the last week or two is an album by Blood Mother.
mm-hmm.
It's one of the guys from The Lion's Daughter. It's his
Mm-hmm.
new project. And so it's got kind of that horror soundtrack synth element to it, like The Lion's Daughter did, but the music leans more black metal.
Mm-hmm.
And it also, if you read the description, they kind of talk about this like dark Americana thing laced through it, and it's subtle, but that's also there. And I've been really excited about that self-titled Blood Mother album as well.
Yeah, as usual for everybody, the links are just beneath that in the show notes, so you can easily access all of the things that we plug. Yeah, two really good choices, especially because of the Furnask record. I really like that one too. Yeah, definitely. It's a very, very good record. Um, I am also gonna stay in European realms a lot. I'm gonna pluck a, let's say, doom band from Italy, which I recently discovered through a friend of mine, Greg, who runs Gero, who runs Argonauta Records, and he released a record by an Italian doom band called Bantoriac. Really, really cool thing. I like the way that it's warm and rich, and the songs are stretched to the horizon and everything. So I really think that Bantoriac could be something for everybody. And the second one, also not really, the record is really recent, the band isn't. A Swedish, let's say, death doom jazz band called Gold Spire. If anybody listened to the Backengrillen record from the beginning of this year with the members of Refused, with three of the four members of Refused, then you have an idea what Gold Spire is about. The only difference is it's less chaotic. It's much more chill, much more laid back, but the instrumentation is very similar, and also the way that they incorporate a lot of the death metal trademarks that you had in Backengrillen. Uh, so those two bands would be mine, and I hope that everybody checks them out. Davey, everybody should also check out your record, which comes out in 5 days when this one is released. The Back of Beyond, the third full length. Am I right?
Yep, third one. Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I always look for an icebreaker, and in your case, it's very, very easy. I would give you four possible collabs, collaboration partners, and I hope that you see the red thread that goes through it. And one of them is dead, but assuming he was alive, you could also choose him.
Okay.
I'll give you Kate Bush, Billy Idol, Mark Lanigan, and Radiohead.
Okay. Yeah, that's not what I was expecting to hear. I mean, the Mark Lanigan, maybe. I once in a while get a Mark Lanigan reference. I guess based on the way I sing. I mean, I haven't done enough, substance abuse to get that gravel like he had, but
Yeah, but I don't suggest that to anybody.
no, yeah, I'm not on that path, and I'm not going to start now.
So you would choose Lanigan if possible?
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
Okay. So do you see the red thread going through it?
So you said Kate Bush,
Billy
Billy
Idol, Mark
Idol.
Lanigan, and Radiohead.
Um,
They
no,
all
I
have
don't know.
songs. They all have songs which have the word wedding in the title.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I was like,
Wedding List by Kate Bush, White Wedding
mhm,
by Billy Idol,
of course.
Wedding Dress by Mark Lanigan, and A Punch Up at a Wedding by Radiohead. And interestingly, all four of them should not be played at a wedding.
Yeah, no, that checks out based on the artist.
Uh,
No, I mean, we do get pretty often people will sing to us. It's a nice day for a dry wedding. So the Billy Idol connection, I shouldn't have I shouldn't have second guessed that one.
yeah, I think the others are too difficult. But as you already speak about weddings, and of course, weddings always usually take place in special locations, and there is something about your record which immediately sprung to my mind, and that's the question of what might be the best location for not for listening to the record, but for you as a band to perform. So first of all, I want you to say where you could see yourself perform this before I give my options.
Okay. I mean, I think, just because a lot of the lyrics will incorporate different kind of, natural images. I could see us, performing in like a forest type setting. I could see us performing in a desert. I mean, those are the two kind of natural landscapes that come to mind first. And if you've seen any of the descriptions going around with the new record, I wrote all that, and I'm like talking about like, the volcanic badlands of Oregon and all of these different natural elements of Oregon that I feel like would be a nice backdrop for
Yeah,
us
yeah.
as we perform live.
Um, I already had envisioned you to talk about natural landscapes and settings, also because of, for example, the artwork record that we're also going to talk about later. Uh, I had four very, very different ones. I could see you playing in a desecrated church, so something where also non-ecclesiastical music can be played. I could even see you play in a Louisiana cemetery. I can see you play in an abandoned factory, and I
Okay.
can see you in a smoky harbor bar.
I mean, I think all of those things make sense.
Exactly. And that is something that I really like. I think the record makes sense in a lot of places. You've spoken about Oregon already. For everybody who doesn't know, the band is based in Portland, one of those music cities, USA, which many people probably wouldn't imagine. But do you think that Oregon, as your location, has an influence on your record, on your songwriting, on the lyrics? On the lyrics, you've already said it. On the other two,
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely. It's kind of hard for that not to happen. I mean, I think you can see it where a lot of bands start here or migrate here, and their sound kind of, I think, naturally becomes a little gloomier. Um, and I think that's just a reflection of the weather here because it rains so often throughout the year. I think just being surrounded by trees. I mean, having like just natural beauty, like minutes from your door, no matter what part of town you live in. I think it's undeniable, and I think the Pacific Northwest at large is that way, where you see bands in Oregon and Washington, just being heavily influenced by the weather and the landscapes, and so it's definitely, yeah, it's had a huge impact on on the music, the lyrics, the artwork, just the overall aesthetic. And yeah, I don't know. There's something I like too about. I mean, like me incorporating natural imagery isn't something new. I've done that in past projects as well. But for me, it's been important to hone in on things that are native to
Yeah.
Oregon. I want it to feel like we are, kind of speaking to the things that we know and the things that we would actually potentially interact with in our home state.
By the way, if anybody sees me drinking even more than usual, it's just too hot outside. It's roughly 41 degrees Celsius. So this might be the hottest interview I've ever done.
Oh,
Um, but I understand what you mean. And I then quickly want to connect that to the artwork because although, of course, the artwork for the new record plays with nature and it is set in a very natural environment, one might even guess that it's set in a certain period of time, 120, 130 years ago. It seems like a place without electricity, the way that it is presented there on the cover. But the cover does not show a landscape in Oregon. Oregon, does it?
I mean, it depicts a canyon. I mean, there are some canyons here and some, we have, yeah, like I said, there were like old volcanoes here that are now extinct, and there
Oh, so
are,
that could be Oregon. I thought it was somewhere in New Mexico or Texas.
I mean, it definitely could be in New Mexico or Texas, but yeah, I mean, you have kind of these canyons and
Mm-hmm.
different things throughout Oregon as well. There's like a whole Oregon high desert. There's actually one place we wanted to shoot the music video is called Painted Hills. I
Mm-hmm.
also kind of name dropped that in some of the descriptions I wrote up for the band for this new record. And yeah, if you just Google Painted Hills, Oregon, and it's like literally like the hills look like they've been painted with all these different colors. And so there are, canyons and we have like the Columbia Gorge, which also, has a canyon effect to it.
Yeah.
And, between Oregon and Washington. So, yeah, I think it can reflect, our environment, but yeah,
Yeah.
also too, some other areas of the States.
Then let me ask because I thought I automatically associated it with a serpent box where you also talk a lot about being outdoors and stuff. But Oregon doesn't have rattlesnakes or vipers, does it?
I think there are areas where you can find rattlesnakes. And yeah,
Mhm.
actually, as I said that I was focusing on things native to Oregon,
Yeah.
I will say that the exception might be the serpent box because that was one where I took a different approach lyrically. I
Yeah.
read a book called Salvation on Sand Mountain,
Hmm.
which is actually about like Appalachian churches and snake
So the
handling
other
in
side of the country.
the 1990s. And so I was writing all of these songs that were like very emotionally draining for me, and I needed a moment where I could pull inspiration from elsewhere. And I had
Yeah.
read this book and was so taken by some of the passages and phrases that I was like taking notes while reading. And so yeah, I think I also referenced cicadas in that song, and that's not something
Yeah.
that you would
Yeah.
typically see in Oregon. So the serpent box is the exception.
No problem.
Uh,
No problem.
Thank you for calling me out on
No,
that.
no, no. That's not the reason. I'm not trying to call you out on anything. Don't worry. Uh, I also like the Serpent Box lyrically because it shows that you are not just jotting some teenage bullshit like "she loves you," yeah, yeah, yeah. But you also play a lot with words because I quote two passages. Back at the preacher's smokehouse, rattlesnakes coiled in lard cans. And a few lines later, you say, rattle the snakes with a pipe, force the hand of his wife. What I like about it is that you take this rattlesnakes, rattle the snakes, shows somebody who's really aware of language and who really tries to come up with different images. Um, how important to you are the lyrics?
I mean, extremely important. I have a degree in creative writing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I studied, I mean, I focused a lot on poetry, but I also took short story classes and a lot of literature classes. And, have used those skills, throughout my career post college. So,
Yeah.
I write for a living. I worked for Discogs for 3 years, writing articles for them about, records and nerdy music stuff.
If you ever want to
Um,
write about music, there is a blog in Europe which luckily picks you up.
okay, yeah, good to know. But yeah, I mean, so the lyrics, I mean, have always been extremely important to me. I think with this band, it's like we'll focus very heavily on the music first and get that all dialed in, because at the end of the day, like, I acknowledge that someone's entry point into a band first and foremost is always going to be the way it sounds, and a
Most
lot
of
of
the times, yes. Yeah.
yeah, and then but then I do put so much effort and thought into the lyrics. I mean, they're very layered. Every phrase, every word has been carefully selected.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff you could, there's a lot of symbolism and metaphor and whatnot in what I write. And yeah, so it's like, for me, yeah, I want to hook people in with the music, but I'm really hoping that they'll take that extra step and they'll take out that lyric sheet, and kind of read along as they're listening, and then hopefully, because for me, when I listen to a band and I love the music, and then I read the lyrics and I love the lyrics, it just elevates that band for me, in a very profound way. So I'm not saying that's everyone's experience with us, but my hope is that that'll help kind of, help people connect with the music even more.
And then, if I understood it correctly, the four of you first write the music, and then you come up with the lyrics.
Yes. So typically, like, I'll come up with some riff ideas and send them to the guys, and then if something is catching everyone's ear the right way, then next time we have time to work on something new, we'll start messing around with that, and sometimes it takes different shapes. Like the other day, I came up with a riff idea, and my bandmate Jared came up with a bunch more to add to it, and so it's like they kind of all take different shapes. But yeah, typically, it'll start with a few ideas from me. We'll work on the music for a while. And then as we're working on the music, I'll start getting, ideas for melodies and
Yeah.
vocal structures. And so then by the time the music is fully done, I usually have a pretty good idea of how I'm going to sing it,
Yeah.
and, what my syllable counts will be for each line and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. And then, yeah. And I might even have already started writing some of the lyrics along the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually I wait until the song is done and then kind of sit down with it and listen to it, and start kind of working it out that way.
Um, and I also want to explain my location choices a little bit more with the help of the lyrics for Sure as a Gun. Because when listening to the record, one gets the notion, okay, this kind of short story is set at night under the nighttime sky. And but that only becomes obvious after, I think, like the second or third stanza, where you openly talk about, okay, so something like vicious night sky, if I remember correctly. And then that image gets developed more and more. But at the beginning, it's a very kind of film noir kind of story where you very detailedly express and describe how somebody uses a gun, the muscle blast, the way that the blood comes out, very, very descriptive. um, so here I had the feeling, okay, so this is somebody who listened to his Cave, who listened to his Lanigan, who listened also maybe even to somebody like Reznor or Dylan, whose lyrics, with Dylan they are maybe a little overappreciated, with Reznor they're probably a little underappreciated. Um, but somebody who tells stories that are very shifty, very variable, and is that also important for you? That sometimes the lyrics are not clear from the first moment, or from the first time you listen to it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm purposely trying to do that necessarily. I think for me, there's always like a narrative structure
Yeah,
there, and it might be looser in certain songs than others. But at the end of the day, like all of those story points, all of those images are all representing some sort of, what I would call like a universal human emotion. So for me, it's like, people I think like, Nick Cave, like historically, like up until a point was very narrative, but he was telling stories about other people. And then he kind of flipped it and kind of started singing more about himself. Me,
yeah,
like, I feel like I've been singing about myself this whole time. And because a lot of them are in the first person. But instead of just being like you were saying, kind of like this kind of straightforward, like, oh, I'm sad, or oh, like, I'm angry, like just kind of, instead of just going that way, using these images and these stories to kind of illustrate those emotions and those hardships. And sure as a gun, yeah, it was like an old like Wild West phrase,
yeah,
about being certain about something. And I thought that was so interesting because a gun can jam up on you. It can like misfire. Like there are all these things that can happen. So it's like this idea of like I think through like the band, I try to use that to feel confident in my skin and who I am. But I also have these moments of insecurity and doubt. And so that song, even though it's kind of like, yeah, this person kind of walking through this desolate landscape and kind of realizing the chaos they've left in their wake, it is also at the end of the day just about this very simple, like, yeah, I was certain in, and I felt conviction in these things that I've done,
yeah.
and now I'm not so sure anymore. So it's like all the songs kind of work that way, where it's like if you just want the story, it's there. If you want the like very like visceral imagery, that's there. But if you also want subtext, it's also in there.
Yeah, it's also a way that, of course, in very, very many lines, you use an elliptic structure so that there is already space for the reader slash listener to insert his or her own ideas and therefore, of course, make the song his or her or their own. Um, and I also wanted to talk about Sure as a Gun because of it having a very kind of exemplary style. We'll come to the unclassifiability of your band and your record, but with Sure as a Gun, there is something really, really cool because there is this kind of little metallic echo on the guitar lines, on the parts. So it sounds already like a neo gothic kind of thing in a way. Um, I mean, like I know that bands never set out to create certain songs, but of course, gothic being one of the ultimate darkness related genres, you are aware that you're not really a happy go lucky band.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us like necessarily identify with the goth moniker. That's like
Mm-hmm.
something that's thrown around just because we're making dark and challenging music. But yeah, uh, I don't think we're like a fun band per se.
And you've already said it, you're not a goth band, you're not a post punk band, you're not a country band, you're not a punk band. If you had to describe your music to the uninitiated listener, how would you describe it? And please don't use the thing that you have on Bandcamp because I want to come up to that later.
Oh, well, I wrote that, so I was gonna
Yeah,
pull from
I'm
that.
gonna come to that later. Just a moment.
I so I think for me, there's kind of like multiple points that I try to hit on just to get
Yeah.
the overall idea. And it's really interesting, and I'm sure you've encountered this throughout your life where you have a conversation about music with people, and depending on what their prior knowledge is or their tastes are, you have to kind of tailor the description to that person so they
Yeah.
can,
So treat me as if I'm Forrest Gump and explain your music to me.
Okay, I mean I mean it's dark and brooding. It's heavy, you know, because like you said, there is a metallic edge. I mean, I think not even just in Sure as a Gun, but throughout the whole record, and that's intentional. Each record has gotten heavier, and I've kind of we had a line at the beginning like this is the metal line and we shouldn't cross it, and the metal line has just moved. So
So that
I
you can
think
say, oh, we haven't crossed it yet.
yeah, exactly. So I think you know, we're already like almost halfway done writing music for the next one already. And that
Wow.
one is moving more into like yeah, like the heavier, more aggressive sound that we've been kind of like, you know, building toward with each one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say it's like dark and brooding, it's heavy, it's twangy. That's like one of the
Yeah.
words I use.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like if you like heavy, moody, twangy music, then maybe you'll like Dry Wedding.
I like your description. I also like the description that you put up on Bandcamp because it shows something else. Davey here wrote that short 4-word description. Post cowpunk band.
Oh, you're talking
So,
about that one. We have a new one that's like For the Record, which was like
okay.
heavy gothic western post punk. And
Yeah, yeah,
again, like
that is that in its hilarity of as assembling all things possible.
yeah, well,
That's
but it's hard, you know.
yeah, it
Yeah,
is. It is. It is, of course. But no, what I wanted to say is that um, something that I like about the record and also about you as a band is that one never has the feeling as if you are trying to be broody and dark and trying to be as miserable as possible. You know, there is always that silver lining at the end. Maybe not in Sure as a Gun, but in many of the moments, many of the songs. And I also think with this post cowpunk band thing, um, it shows a band of people who also have a certain sense of humor. Is that important for you and bandmates that it's that you share a certain kind of humor?
I mean, I think it's very important, and I mean, me and my bandmates, I mean, we're constantly laughing and joking, and I think that's an interesting thing. Like I, in my daily life, am a pretty goofy person, and I joke a lot, and I think that
You
I,
also
you
smile too much to be a real golf.
well, no, you know, but that's the thing is it's like I actually you know, one of the songs I'm working on now for the next record is kind of about this like this idea of duality or this idea of like you can be one thing at the end of this
Yeah,
you know spectrum and then be on the complete opposite end at the same time and be one
yeah,
person.
yeah,
And I think that over time like as I've encountered people throughout my life, people who meet me like, oh, we work together or something, and I'm goofy, and then they see the music that I make, it's like shocking to them. Flip that,
yeah,
people who know me from the records or seeing me live or whatever, and then they talk to me and they see that I'm, you know, smiley and cracking jokes and whatnot. Like, like people have a hard time reconciling that
yeah,
sometimes. But I think like in the band context, it's like it's important for us because yes, the songs are intense. Our songwriting process has gotten more intense over time where, you know, we will work on songs for longer periods of time because, you know, we're trying out all of these different ideas. Like this person's got multiple things they want to try in this part. This person wants to try this over here. We want to try moving the structure around. We think that, oh, there's a dip here, so should we replace this part? Should we move it to another part of the song? I mean, it's like it's become a lot more intense, and I think if you don't have the levity and the jokes and all of that to kind of
yeah,
counterbalance all of that, then I mean, yeah, then I think I wouldn't be here smiling, and I would be, you know, walking around
yeah.
miserable. You know, like we have to have that side of it in order for the thing to function.
I would definitely say so too. And there is also something that I like about your band, and also, for example, about the last video that you did. Um, your band is hard to place. Your band, not your songs, but your band is hard to place in a certain kind of timeline setting because you do not necessarily sound like 2026. And I mean that in a very, very positive way. I'm very, very sure if we jetted into the future and we were talking about the record 5 years from now, it will still sound very out of time in a not outdated sense, but in the sense that it would fit to nearly all time periods, which I really like. I like when music is timeless. And at the same time, there is something about the way that your band looks like. Uh, I've also seen pictures of you where I was like, okay, I got the style. And my first association, also somewhat sound wise, was Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. And I'm not talking about the band, I'm talking about the fictitious biker gang in The Wild One.
Okay.
Would you take it as a compliment if I said like, okay, you could also be the background band in that movie?
I mean, I think that's an interesting. I mean, I think I'd have to pull up some images real quick to say for certain, but I will say I do have like
a lot of leather, a lot of black, a lot of combed back hair, and all of that.
I have a weird aversion to certain like
Images?
phrases or like scenes or whatever. So one of so anytime anyone says anything kind of like rockabilly-ish, I kind of cringe a little.
No, that's not what I was saying.
Yeah, okay. Well, then that's good. And as far as like the leather thing goes, that's mostly just me. I mean, all the guys kind of have their own style going on, but like, yeah, me, like, I mean, my bandmate Jared wears a leather jacket sometimes and whatnot, but like, yeah, me, like, I'm wearing the cowboy boots with the boot chains and and like, yeah, like a leather cuff or something. I get a little more dolled up, whereas like our drummer, like, will wear like swim trunks and a cut off band shirt, and the way he plays, he can wear whatever he wants. Like, that's my thing. I want people to be comfortable, and I want them to express themselves. I don't want anyone to like, put on some stuffy shirt because we're trying to project a certain thing on stage. I just want to present as genuine,
Yeah, and so in that sense, you would say, okay, timelessness when it comes to style might not be the corporate identity, but timelessness when it comes to sound, that is surely something that you're aiming for, right?
Yes, and also lyrically, because I very intentionally don't put certain things in songs that will timestamp it too much, And I'm not knocking anybody. If someone wants to sing about current technology or whatever, that's fine. I think there's definitely room for that. But for me personally, like, I want the songs to kind of like live in this space where they feel like they could, live in any time and fit.
Yeah, and they definitely do. I think that, and as I said, that is something that is very remarkable about bands if they have the chance of sounding like that. Not to say that I do not like bands that clearly talk about 2026 things and topics, but I also like it when a band is going further than that. What I also notice about your songs is that, how should I say, they take as much time as they need, but they never fringe out into 10, 12, 13-minute things. But nevertheless, there is always a lot of space between certain instruments, between certain passages in songs. And I'm very sure that dealing with that space, dealing with that moment in between parts, I'm very sure that's difficult to establish when you're writing. So the question is, first of all, how do you write songs? And the second would be, are these spaces intentional or are they reinserted afterwards?
Oh, yeah, that's a great multi-parter right there. The heat is not affecting you at all.
It
We're on.
does. You don't know how much I've written down for this one. I've literally just quoted me here because I
Okay,
knew
you're
that's
quoting
the brain.
yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. As soon as we started playing together, it was clear to me that everybody was proficient at their instrument in this way where they could just go off. I mean, all the guys. I mean, me, like, I always say I can barely play guitar. I'm more of an ideas man, I think, guitar wise. Oh, you're not buying it. Okay. I think like, I'm more skilled vocally. But
I would buy
um
that one.
okay, sure. That's because that's, I mean, if you want to call it an instrument, singing was my first instrument. I've been doing that forever. But it was clear to me like, oh, all of these guys can play and could fill up as much space as you could ever want. But to me, the mark of a good musician has always been, oh, you can have the ability to do that, but you also have the ability to know when to embellish and when to pull back. And I think with each record, we've gotten more successful at that. And so by the time we got to the third one, yeah, it was very intentional where it's like, okay, we're working on a song, we're working on a part. And for me, a lot of times it's just, is it striking the mood that I envisioned in my head? And so sometimes I can't fully articulate what feels off or not, but I'll just be like, okay, like, yeah, maybe we pull this back or this does something slightly different. And so just kind of playing with each of those layers and each part of the song. And yeah, some of that includes like, okay, yeah, you are doing something really cool here that's a little busier. So I'm going to take the back seat here and do something subtle. And it's like us kind of playing off of each other in that way. And I think because we can be very twisty and turny and busy at times, it was just really important for us to also go, hey, let's acknowledge the like the less is more philosophy when
Mm-hmm.
it applies, and let's try and practice some restraint in some parts and kind of
Mm-hmm.
see what effect that has,
Mm-hmm.
for the music.
And there is also something that I would like to ask. That is the way that you, and here we come back to the word play and the way that you play with lyrics and also with ideas. Um, a lot of the music makes you think, okay, where are they going? What could be next? You keep people guessing, which is a very cool thing. And I'm also still guessing at what the record title should tell us. The Back of Beyond. Question: are you talking about the back of beyond being the present, or the back of beyond being the backbone of something that's going to happen in the future, which might not even be the present, but even further back in the past? So, what is for you the back of beyond? Don't keep me guessing.
I mean, again, yeah, I think it's one of those things that probably has some layers to it. I mean, the actual definition, is kind of just like a very, off the beaten path, like backwoods area. So I feel like, that ticks a box for us because those are the spaces that are kind of explored throughout the record. Kind of these untrodden paths and whatnot.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, I think too, I just, because again, all of this stuff connects to things that are in my mind or in my heart. I think the back of beyond for me was just, yeah, kind of almost like going into those deep backwoods areas of your mind and kind of coming to terms with the person that you are, the person that you were, the person that you hope to become, but you're not so sure if you're on that path or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of it just like, yeah, kind of ties into that idea.
Mm-hmm. The other thing is you just released a new video, and it's really, really cool because it's a montage video of live shots and other images. And the other images have have reminded me very much of David Lynch, to put it quite out there. Um, Videographer's idea or your idea?
So
Here you see me losing my mind because of heat.
Just got to dunk the whole thing. No, yeah. So I mean, I'm a huge David Lynch fan. And I just, yeah, I showed the song to the director, and she came up with, like, I had some initial ideas for imagery and whatnot. And then she's like, oh, that's really cool. Also, like, this is what I'm thinking. And she kind of created this digital mood board.
Yeah.
And one of the big things was like, I think this could have like a Lynchian kind of like look and feel to it. And I was like, okay, you get it. So like, we're gonna work with you. Like, that was kind of the big selling point, was like, oh yeah, let's do like a David Lynch thing with this. And I was like, okay, yeah, you understand where we're coming from. So yeah, it was mostly the videographer's idea, but it just kind of synced well with what I kind of envisioned anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that because it's a really powerful video, powerful but not overpowering, which is a very, very cool thing, I think. And it also shows that in a way you create music and seem to have a mental image for the song, which might not even be the story of the song. But is that so? Do you have mental images for your tracks?
I mean, I think a lot of the time, yeah. I'm a big fan of soundtracks and composers and music that is meant to accompany some sort of imagery. And so I do often imagine certain images and things, and I think it kind of lends a cinematic quality to some of the music. um and yeah, I mean, even like, we came up with a couple new shirt designs earlier this year, and it was like just a bunch of ideas, some based on the lyrics and some that like kind of brought in new elements too. And so I feel like, yeah, there is kind of a strong visual identity that accompanies most of the music that we work on.
It's interesting that you say that because there is something in the artwork of all three full lengths that you've done and released and or are going to release now in 5 days. Um, Many of them have something that I don't like to call corporate identity, but they all seem to share some kind of colorfulness and also vagueness at the same time. Um, is that something that you like? Like having some kind of vague corporate identity on your record covers?
I mean, I think I do. I think it's important for me, and this is something I've thought about a lot, and something we've talked about a lot as a band. But I feel like for me, a lot of my favorite musicians that have had very long careers and have kept me interested, like throughout the duration, have done so because there's an evolution there, but there's also a couple of through lines that connect everything together. So it's like, you're not making the same record over and over again, but there are like a couple of those core elements that are like you, and like that's
Yeah.
part of like what you do. And I think that musically and with the artwork, that's something that we've been striving to do, where it's like, okay, let's not just redo that last record again, let's evolve, let's change, but like, yeah, what are the through lines there?
Yeah.
And so I think that the artwork plays a part in that. And and also too, the cover art from the second album was done by Adam Burke, Nightjar Illustration, who's on like 1 out of every 5 metal records these days. But so we licensed that piece from him.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the third record, we commissioned a piece, and it's a rectangular, painting So it's the front cover and the back cover.
Hmm.
It's the whole thing. So it extends around. I have the original upstairs in my living room, which is very cool. And yeah, so we kind of got to come up with the concept for that one, which was very fun. And
Hmm.
yeah, and like I think so. There's a through line between the second and third because it's the same artist. But yeah, the first one was just done by my bandmate Jared, like through like public domain images and this kind of
Hmm.
collage technique. But yeah, it's interesting that you're seeing. I guess there are just aesthetics we gravitate toward, and that kind of
Problem.
just shows in each one.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, when you think of the cover for the new record for The Back of Beyond, I mean, like it is a very cool cover. It has something nearly pointillistic because one seems to have like one. Sometimes it seems as if you really see every single dot on the cover, which is a very very cool thing. I have one more question before we come to the quick fire round, or one set of questions.
Okay.
You are now releasing through a German label, Vesperian,
Yes.
located in the capital of my home state of Bavaria. How does it come that a band from Portland, Oregon, west coast of America, is releasing through a record label 9 hours, like 12,000 kilometers away from them? And here you could talk about our Frenchman.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, you already know the story.
I do.
Well, yeah, our mutual friend Ralph Schmidt, he's become a very good friend of mine, and he's been a huge supporter of the band. And even with the last record, kind of tried to see if he could help connect us with some folks, and we ended up self-releasing that one.
That was
Um,
Sway for everybody. That was a record called Sway back in 21.
yeah, yeah, and then so because we did it ourselves, the vinyl didn't come out until like early 23, I think.
Yeah.
So there was a big gap there between like the digital and the physical. But yeah, so we finished this record. I mean, it's been finished for a long while now. And we're like, okay, let's shop it out. I was talking to a potential label for a while, kind of like a stretched out conversation. It's kind of like a will he or won't he kind of
Yeah.
thing going on. And it eventually, it became clear that it wasn't going to happen. So I was like, okay, like I'm gonna, shop it around a bit. We were getting we got more responses than we've ever gotten. Usually as a band,
Very
if
good.
you're just like cold calling or cold emailing
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
it's like you just never hear anything.
Which
And
speaks to the quality of the music.
which happened the first couple records really. And so for this one, like I don't know what it was, but people were actually listening, but we were getting these responses of like, hey, this is really cool, but outlier music is harder to move than ever. Like people, I think a lot of labels right now are a little more risk adverse. And makes from a business standpoint, I understand that. So it was like, okay, this cool label passed, we're too weird. Okay, I get it. And then Ralph was like, okay, let me see what I can do. And then so he connected us with one label. We started talking to them about maybe doing a split release, and we're like, okay, that's better than
Which you can still do.
yeah. Yeah. And then
But it will be difficult to find another band that he loves and that you can do covers of. I mean, he has already Nephilim, Bathory, Ministry.
yeah. So we're like, oh, like he connected us with a label to work with, and like yeah, we would have paid for half the pressing and the label would have paid for the other half. And so we were going to do that, and then at the 11th hour, Ralph was like, let me make this video on Instagram and just see if there are any other options out there for you. And sure enough, like he posted this video and he got approached by this guy Philip, who used to run Century Media, and he's like, hey, I'm starting this new label. I tell me more about Dry Wedding, like what's going on with this band. I'm intrigued. And so Ralph had all the materials, like the digital files and lyrics and the cover art, because we had that for ages. And he listened to it a few times, you know, became interested, and then we had a Google call, and by the end of the call, we were like, we both feel like this is a really good fit, and you know, we're in very good company with, you know, bands like Wayfarer and Stormkeep, and so yeah, it was a no brainer for us to work with Vesperian.
Cool. Yeah, I also think it's a very, very good fit for you. Um, and it's also good in the sense that, you know, it's it's a label that doesn't have 20, 30, 40 artists, but not too many, and then does those artists justice and does a good job. I can see that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, to Philip's credit, like he said that us being weird was a good thing. And and to
See?
me, like I'm like, I agree with you. I do think it's a good thing. But you know, we had gotten so much of like, oh, you know, no, we don't know how to market this, we don't know how to sell this kind of stuff. And so it was really nice to have someone just be like, no, and like him being able to fit us in this like first run of releases.
Yeah.
You know, we were very grateful for that because, like I said, we had already been sitting on it for a long while.
Yeah.
And so to be able, you know, he's like, oh, this will help establish that, like, yes, Vesperian is doing a lot of metal, but we're also not beholden to that. It's very
Yeah.
important for Philip to, you know, to have this label that has a diverse roster. And so I've been very, you know, I've been feeling very honored to be a part of that and part of this kind of like origin story of the label.
Yeah. I totally understand that. And I also see that, I mean, like you've mentioned Wayfarer, who many people, of course, naturally associate with black metal, but, you know, also looking at that band as an example, that is not just a black metal band. There is much more to that. Just like you're sporting Yellow Eyes, also, that's not just a black metal band, but there is much more to it. And there is much more to your music than the American Gothic thing that people might see or hear at the beginning. Yeah, I can see that. And I totally agree. You're on a good label there. Very happy. So also very happy. Once in a while we have a good German label, not being one niche only. That is very cool. Um, Davey, first of all, thanks for the insight into Back of Beyond. For everybody, once again, when this one comes out in 5 days' time, you can listen to the record in full. You can probably already do the pre-order up at Vesperian or through Bandcamp or wherever you want to shop. But nobody leaves these interviews here without the quick fire round at the end. Also, not you.
I've been afraid of this, to be honest. I've been a little nervous about it. But I will say you brought up my voice sounding different than my singing, and you never returned to it.
Oh yeah, that is very easy because I think that your voice is it is very in the style of singing. I hope you don't mind, but you have a style of singing, and it's not Lanigan to me. It's because there is nothing whispered and whiskey about it. Very, to me, it sounds like very, very well schooled through Nick Cave.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I get that a lot. I mean, he was a very big influence on me. I mean, continues to be. But
And
my
I would
vocal.
even specifically say very much murder ballad.
Okay. Yeah, I could hear that. My vocal North Star though, like my favorite singer of all time is Scott Walker. So
Okay.
that's kind of the voice that I'm always kind of chasing. But you know, I do incorporate a lot more angry stuff than
Yeah.
Scott Walker would. But the like croony baritone thing is like
Yeah.
he's like my ultimate you know, North Star as far as vocals are
Yeah.
concerned.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. But there is also some of the phrasing and the way that you phrase certain words where I say, okay, that is not exactly what Cave does, but close to what Nick does in some of the songs, especially pre-Skeleton Key, where it's still more post-punkish and more, um, yeah, yeah, just more punk in attitude.
Yeah.
For me,
Yeah.
after Skeleton Key, he's come into a very I'm the Sinatra of the 21st century, which is not a bad thing. I'm the Sinatra of the 21st century, and I have to croon my way through life. Yeah,
Yeah, I fell off the last handful of records like right where you did. So I'm right there with you. I just there's not the last couple like just haven't really done it for me. So
I don't want to say that I fell off. I still think that Push the Sky Away is a brilliant record.
yeah, that's a great
It
record.
just does not hit the cave spot for me. That's something that Ralph and I have been talking about. He says like it's the best pop record of I don't know when, but I say yes, it might be, but it's not cave.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the quick fire round, and I looked up some interesting stuff for you.
Okay. Yeah, you look very excited.
But let's get the elephant out of the way. So if we're already talking so much Ulfa, I'll give you two Ulfa albums, and you have to choose between Converging Sins and All That Has Never Been True.
Probably All That Has Never Been True.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to give you one of the earlier ones and one of the newer ones. And I didn't want to give you the very last one because it's hard to admit for me, but that I have been spinning this record so often, it's probably going to be my favorite all-time Ulfa record up to this moment. We don't know what he comes up with in the next years, but up to now,
I mean, I might know. I might know what he's working on, but no spoilers. Yeah,
yeah,
but
but it's going to take another 4 years before we hear something. So
I don't think so.
yeah, I also don't think so.
That's
We
all
don't
I'm
want
saying.
to. We don't want to spoiler somebody.
No, we're not spoiling. I'm saying I don't know. Maybe,
But we can say it's not coming out this year.
no. That would.
He doesn't do a Converge.
Yeah. I mean, and good for Converge. I mean, to put out 2 killer records in 1 year, that's not an easy feat.
It is not. It is not. But I also have to say that I like the second one better than the first one.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's valid. But yeah, I would say All That Has Never Been True. I feel like I don't know. For me, I think Alpha just keeps getting better. I think there's like an ambition to the songwriting on that one and this most recent one.
Yeah.
Where I feel like, more than ever, like Ralph and the rest of the guys are kind of like, continuing to push those boundaries of what black metal can be. And I mean, him and I talked about.
Don't get me back into the question that he and I started with, like, has Ulfa ever been a black metal band? I'm not going to repeat that. I got so much shit for that question, not from Ralph, but from other people.
I mean, I think like at the core, yes, they're a black metal band, but they are not beholden to any of these rules, and they're not beholden to any of these purists. And to me, like, whether it's metal or punk or whatever, like those are the most interesting bands to me, where they're just like, cool, I'm glad you like our stuff, but we're not going to just keep doing this over and over again to please you. Like, we are going to take that and use the spirit of this music to like continue to push ourselves creatively.
As you are pushing me, I will give one answer. Ulfa is maybe the most black metal band ever to come out of Germany, because black metal at its core was trying to annoy people. And if you annoy those who want to be annoyed by doing something they don't like, then that's as black metal as fuck.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, and that's the way, like I said, I view like the best punk bands, the best metal bands. It's all like they're marching to the beat of their own drum. And yeah, that's the way to do it.
Let's stick to the Pacific Northwest now. I'll give you Meathmore versus Bellwitch. And I'm very happy that I don't have to answer that, because choosing between two friends is a very hard thing for me. So I'm very happy that you get to.
Yeah, I don't want this getting back to any of them. I see these people out and about sometimes.
Oh, I'll write ALN and I'll write Dylan and Jesse and like. No, let's be honest.
Okay,
they're musically so different that I think neither will be annoyed.
I really like both of them. I'm just gonna get that out of the way.
Yeah.
But I think I would lean Meathmore.
you couldn't make a bad choice in between those two. You couldn't.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There's just something about like the weight of Mizmor.
Oh yeah, I
You
know
know,
what you mean.
yeah, there's just like it's just there's an intensity there. Mizmor's been very consistent, I feel like, across all the recorded output. I love kind of this backstory of like being a person of faith and having a falling out and
Yeah.
that like relationship becoming completely severed. I just think there, and because of that, I think there's just like a heaviness to it that you're not getting from a lot of other bands, playing in that style.
Yeah. And in both cases, one also has to say like they're just really nice people.
Yeah. Also that, yeah. But yeah, I mean, Bellwitch is fantastic too. I do love Bellwitch as well.
As you were talking about the Pacific Northwest, and you also, of course, we have to include the state of Washington in this. I'll give you two bands whose roots are in the state of Washington. Metal Church versus the Melvins.
Oh, you said the Melvins?
Yes.
1000% the Melvins.
Okay.
I'm a big Melvins guy.
Okay.
And my bandmates are too. We're all big fans of the Melvins. Again, a band that has completely done their own thing and does not really care what anybody thinks along the way. I really admire that. And I just think, I mean, the early stuff is so good and influential, and the weirdo stuff is fantastic. I mean, they have a million records. I'm not going to say I love every single one, but
difficult.
I have a pretty big, my Melvins sections, like, right there or whatever. I have quite a few, and I just, I really admire.
And you also don't even have close to 66%, I would guess, from what I see, when you made like this. Like.
I mean, it's like, I don't know. But I've just always really admired their approach to songwriting, their musicianship, and just like their attitude toward the whole thing. The Melvins.
Mm-hmm. And one last Pacific Northwest band, and for Ralph and me, that's stuff that we grew up with because we're a tiny bit older than you are. But I'm very sure you can also choose between Nirvana's In Bloom and Polly.
Oh, this is a great question because, like, before I got into punk as a teenager, I was very into Nirvana. I had like the Kurt Cobain hair. I wore like the old man sweaters, and like, like Kurt Cobain and Nirvana were my gateway to so many amazing bands from there. The Melvins being one of them.
Yeah.
But no, I'm gonna go In Bloom. Okay. It's more dynamic. I feel like it kind of, showcases a lot of what Nirvana was skilled at in one song. I mean, I like Polly a lot too, but I'm going In Bloom.
Lyrically, I would say that Polly is more easily memorable because it's easier to stick in your head, definitely. But I can see In Bloom, great song.
I mean, if we're talking lyrically, then maybe I would say Polly. But musically, I think In Bloom.
Totally fine. We've spoken about your love for movies and also soundtracks. So let's start off with the aforementioned Mr. David Lynch. And I'll give you two of his movies. And I'm not going to use Twin Peaks. That's too easy because everybody would choose Twin Peaks, I guess. But I'll give you Lost Highway versus Mulholland Drive.
Ooh! Oh! Yeah. I knew you were gonna get me with one where I was like squirming.
I don't know if the next two will be much easier.
Oh God! Do I have to pick one? Is this a rule? Oh,
I'll give you one pass, but the next two might not be much easier.
Okay. Oh my God!
It sounds as if he's nearly crying on that one.
No, I don't know. I mean, Mulholland Drive. I mean, I think of that classic scene behind the diner that just like
Yeah.
is
Okay.
forever burned into my
Okay.
brain. But then there are so many parts of Lost Highway that are now going through my mind. Yeah, no, I'm gonna take the pass on this one. I will.
Okay.
I want to go into the unknown with the next one.
Okay. I'll give you
Um,
Jim Jarmusch. Two movies by Mr. Jarmusch. Ghost Dog versus Coffee and Cigarettes.
okay. I am a big Jarmusch fan.
Most
I
people
feel
who
like
are Lynch fans are also Jarmusch fans.
I feel like Dead Man is the movie equivalent of like the music that I want to make. You know, like I've always felt a strong affinity toward Dead Man. Um, I'm gonna go Ghost Dog.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going. I just I love this idea of like the samurai movie, but in this like modern New York setting.
Mm-hmm.
I think Forrest Whitaker is just so good in that movie. Yeah, I mean, no notes on Ghost Dog. I love that movie. So, and the soundtrack is
Yeah.
killer. So yeah, we're going Ghost Dog. I'm
And
glad I
the
passed
next
on that one.
and the next one is one that I only ask you because I know that you're a nerd and you will know both. The musician David Lynch versus the musician Jim Jarmusch. Whose music do you enjoy more?
Oh, I actually think I like Jim Jarmusch's music more. I have more Jim Jarmusch records than I do David Lynch
Yeah,
records.
Lynch also hasn't put out as many as Jarmusch.
Yeah, that's maybe that. Yeah, maybe that's why.
Yeah,
No, I like
but
Jarmusch's music. I feel like it has, yeah, just like the overall mood of it. I really like.
yeah, it
Again,
also fits to the mood that he presents in the movies. One has to say
yes,
that.
and again, it's like a less is more kind of thing. Like
Yeah,
just very kind of
yeah,
stark, cool
yeah,
little guitar lines and things.
yeah.
It sets a very, very good mood.
Although I have to say, if I had to pick one album out of all the albums both did, I would probably choose that David Lynch one that he did with uh, Danger Mouse and Mark Linkous. Darker was the night, or Dark was the night, something like that. That would be my choice because that is unbelievably sparse and opulent at the same time. I don't know how they did that, but that is unbelievable. Last one,
Okay,
scores. You have to choose between John Williams and Hans Zimmer.
John Williams.
That was quick.
Yeah.
Can you explain why?
Um, I mean, I mean Zimmer. I think might have some scores that feel a little larger in scope at times than maybe John Williams, but John
Mm-hmm.
Williams is just a master of his craft.
Mm-hmm.
I had the honor of seeing him conduct like the Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra,
Mm-hmm.
and just I mean, I don't know, like you can't like. I was actually talking about him recently. It's just he laid the foundation for certain types of film scores. And again, like he can do something very minimal and very impactful, or he
Mm-hmm.
can do this more lush orchestration
Mm-hmm.
and always capture like a mood, whether it's like there's danger, there's like adventure, like I think that you know he's one of those composers where even if you don't know anything about film scores,
Yeah.
you could hum probably at least four or five John Williams compositions and not even yeah, I mean, come on. And
Yeah.
when they did that at the Hollywood Bowl, everyone had these lightsabers just swinging around. And
Yeah.
so it's like I have that experience now. I have
Yeah.
that memory.
Yeah.
And yeah, John Williams is just so tied up in a lot of childhood memories and whatnot as well.
I totally see that. One of my colleagues at school, a music teacher, before the orange dipshit came into office, flew to the States with his wife every year. They're both teachers, they have no kids, so they always usually spend like 3 or 4 weeks in the US in our summer holidays. And I remember very clearly, I think it was 2020, something like that, when they specifically arranged their travel itinerary around John Williams conducting a gig in I don't remember where, but it was a place that he told me about where every year great composers come and they conduct a series of concerts, and they arranged their travel itinerary so that they would see, I think, 3 or 4 out of those concerts. And I'm very sure he wouldn't do that for Hans Zimmer, although I know that he loves Zimmer. But yeah, I mean, like with Williams, there is something about the Williams thing that I totally understand, and I totally agree with you. Zimmer sometimes is more about his own songs than about the movies. With
Yeah.
Williams, he always underlines the movies. And I mean, think of how many amazing movies the guy has done and how different they are from each other. Not to say that Hans Zimmer is a bad composer. No, he's not. He's a really good one. But if you take that into consideration, I think the only one who might come close to Williams would be Morricone.
I was gonna say the same thing, especially too. Of course, I'm a huge fan of his because, like, I mean, spaghetti Western guitar riffs are always on the brain when we're working on music. But far beyond that, I'm into like his weirdo, like early experimental jazz stuff. I'm into his like giallo horror movie scores. I'm into all the spaghetti Western stuff, of course, and then just even like the later stuff that's like like the stuff throughout the 80s, like Cinema Paradiso being kind of this like beautiful score. The stuff he did for The Thing. I mean, you're talking about range here. Like, yeah. I mean, he's the king.
Yeah, and he's somebody who survived Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, if you look at his like filmography / discography, like he's got like over 500 things credited.
Yeah, he's definitely more workaholic than Williams, and that is already hard to beat.
Yeah, well, I mean, all those Italian guys, all those composers and directors, it was like I feel like they just did not stop working for several years.
They also didn't stop and slept. Probably the only thing that they stopped for was food.
Yeah,
which I can totally understand what you're telling me. Davey, thanks for all the insight into the record. I hope you're happy you survived the quickfire round. Are you happy that you chose the pass on the Lynch one?
Yes.
Okay.
That one I'm still struggling with.
Yeah, sometimes they are hard. So, Davey, enjoy the rest of your day. Over there in the Pacific Northwest, it's still morning time. Over here, it's already early evening. So enjoy the rest of your day. And everybody, in 5 days from now, go to Bandcamp, listen to Back of Beyond, and then, of course, get an order in. And so, Davey, your chance for final last words.
Well, I just want to say thanks for having me. This has been a real pleasure. And the album, this is the first time we've ever had one where you can order it in the US and in the EU. So I'm just very excited about that. So yeah, if anyone ends up, liking it enough to want to purchase it, there are options for everybody.
That's true. However, the people in the UK might be fucked a little bit. That's what you get for Brexit.
Canada might also not fare very well, but
Yeah, but of course they're gonna be the 51st state soon, anyways.
Oh God, let's not get into that at the end of this nice call.
No. I say one thing, and I think I've already said that in interviews. I have a magic number, and the magic number is 5. You know why?
No.
And I can end with this on this interview because it's gonna make you laugh. 4 American presidents have already been killed in office.
Well, I hope your magical 5 is pulling its weight in the year 2026. I'll just say that.
So, Davey, enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much.